I'm Maritza. This is what I want to do real quickly. Try to get out of here by 6:30, so we got a lot to do. Let's go. We do have new people in the room, so let's go real quick and just introduce everybody around this table. And then area. I'm Maritza Keys. I'm the chair.
Eric Carlson with the airport.
Is it Ron, airport business?
Michael Marino, Western Alliance.
Nick Bennett, CRA project coordinator.
Bryce Farringer, urban planner with the Tampa CRA.
Pedro McCray, Tampa CRA director, and East Tampa and Park
He's our leader.
CRA.
Chris Anaskevich with Placemaker and Max.
Amanda Pruitt, with automation personnel service.
And has put in an application to join us. Ma'am? Andrea White with connectivity.
And Sergeant Scott Savage with Tampa Police Department, Second Division.
Well, welcome everybody. So what we're going to do is I want to be able to say that Nick has some really pressing urgent issues that he needs by 6:30. Okay, I'm going to do the public comments right at the moment, which right into any Tampa Police Department, and then we'll go into we don't have the minutes, so we're not going to be able to do minutes today. So that's our advantage right now. We're skipping that over, and we'll go to Cedric. I would ask that whatever needs to be voted on moves ahead of the game and presentations. So, having said that, public comment other than TPD, if you could any comments, anybody else? What I would like to do is ask our guests coming up if you'd like, and introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and give us a little update about TPD, and we may give you some updates as well.
No surprises, guys. Of course, thanks for inviting me. So, yeah, I'm Sergeant Scott Savage with the Tampa Police Department. I've been there for about 16 years. I've been in law enforcement for about 2 decades. What we investigate across the street is everything in the area that is a concern today that we're talking about today, but everything in West Tampa and South Tampa. So as long as it's not a homicide or a sexual battery or kidnapping, it'll fall under my purview. Okay. So the things I believe in is so it's a very small percentage of people that are doing most of the crime. Right? My philosophy is this: it's a blueprint that I have, and that's if you know your offenders and you know the type of crimes they like to do, keep an eye on them, put them in jail as long as you can by building good cases, and crime will drop. It's been happening. I've been over here. I was in headquarters before in their intelligence bureau, but since I've been over here the last couple of years, crime has been dropping. Now I can tell you numbers, but I will tell you this, that I could tell you that, hey, we were down 70% in crime, 70% crime. But if you are the victim of a crime, then none of that matters. Okay. And I completely understand that. All right. Which is why I want to be a direct connection for you guys. Yeah, I'm across the street. I'm going to leave some of my business cards back here. Pick it up. I always say texting me or emailing me is pretty much the best way to get a hold of me, because I do a lot of meetings, and if I'm interviewing someone or on the phone, I don't like to interrupt, but I'll get back to you guys for sure. So I do have some numbers, and again, I'll leave this paperwork in the back. Again, it may not feel like it if you've been the victim of a crime, but overall, so we have a category called Big Five. That's aggravated assaults, burglaries, larceny being the auto, means someone breaks into a car and steals something, robberies, and vehicle theft. So altogether, we are down 69.23% for the month of April. That means comparing last April to this April. All right, and it's still, there's, again, if you're the victim of a crime, but however, if we're talking about burglaries, there's been 2 burglaries in this Drew Park area in April. So if you think about that's commercial burglaries, if they're breaking into a business or residential. For robberies, we've had none. For auto burglaries, we've had none. Vehicle thefts, we've had 1 in this area. So our South Tampa, West Tampa is broken into two sectors. There's A and B. The cutoff is Kennedy. That's B. And then everything up to Hillsborough, or just a little north of Hillsborough, is broken up into grids. And what I did was these numbers affect everything in Drew Park. And that's what I had an analyst pull up. That being said, I can sit up here and tell you about, different tools and techniques we do. We just bought 100 more license plate reading cameras, and these aren't to get traffic tickets on anybody. It's to help us if we're looking for a bad guy, we know what his license plate is. We can, punch those codes. If you get your car stolen, it would be really nice if the tag, pulls up and you can track them and things like that. One of the things the mayor believes is that the more technology we get, it's a force multiplier. So we may not be able to hire more police officers at the time, but if we have more tools in the toolbox, then that'll help things out. And it does, because crime has statistically been going down. All right, so, but I'm going to open it up to, does anybody have any questions or concerns about things that are going on? That's usually the response I get, but I will tell you this. It's like going to the doctor's office for me. Like the doctor will ask me like, hey, do you have any questions? Blank. All right. But then 15, 20 minutes later, I'll end up thinking of something. So I'm gonna leave my business cards back here. And you're with West Shore Alliance, Chris Miller?
Yeah,
Retail?
so he's our liaison, yeah.
Yep. So he works directly for me. Great cop. I just put him in for Officer of the Month. I mean,
Great.
he's an awesome guy. He does fantastic stuff. So
Yeah, we're gonna have Officer Grau is gonna be at our luncheon next week, so
and he's retiring.
send him off.
Yeah, good guy. Yeah, and I know you're gonna love Chris, going forward. He's just a great individual.
So I do have some things to say.
Absolutely.
Kind of bring you up to date on this group's work with TPD, or perhaps we had, he was saying me being the victim on F-350 was stolen. It was at our house, which we were right behind Jesuit, but I know we were followed from here. We were found here in Drew Park. So there are, we have found now that there is sometimes crime that's not reported. Right about the time that my vehicle got stolen, we have a good feeling Nick was about ready to be jumped right in front of, he had a car that was basically seen to be stopped in the expertise.
Yeah, you're on town neighbor.
We're right on the car, just a car that drove in and blocked me in as I was leaving the office around this time. It was blocking night or 6:30 at night or something like that. Just a car that pulled in right in front of me and blocked me in, and two guys got out of the car and they kind of looked at me and I looked at them, and they circled around and got in the car and, burn a rubber out of there. It was just a very sketchy, weird.
But they had,
After hours,
they were parking there,
Yeah, it's people I see on a weekly basis across the street, and it's, just
So,
weird.
yeah. So we're seeing a lot of things, and some things aren't being reported. He did report, he called me, and I'm like, report it, because we had seen a car watching us. And later my car got stolen like that next same day. I probably told you that, but, so he and I have been in, because we were looking at his video to see if the car that was heavy watching us would show up and so forth. And so he called me, I'm like, no, call it in, so I think we all have a positive feeling that there's things going on that are not being reported. And he and I did talk about possibly doing some community PSAs or something to let people know that to report things, because if they don't know, it doesn't show up here, then it's like it's not happening. But also, even if, like, for example, something doesn't get solved, but it those clues, there's probably other better words for it, leads to something else. So the awareness is going to become important. We do know, obviously, there was a big bust, use a common term, arrest of it came out on the news on Hubert Avenue, right before Osborne. Remember, I always say there's problems with the trucks on Hubert Avenue, blah, 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 right? How many times have I said that? And it turned out that, at least they were arrested for, commercial vehicles, correct? But that was led by Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, right, with other county sheriff department. They had been watching them for about 2 years, and they finally called them changing the numbers or something, and I'm only saying for what I heard in the news, reading it, okay? So we did have a big crime ring here happening in Drew Park. And I remember not too long ago, we had the catalytic converters, and these are things that we find out about. And he's from the airport, he wasn't aware about the ring that got caught with stealing luxury cars rental, and they had been working with the police department from the airport, and that also happened. This is all in like the last 6 weeks, folks. So there is crime happening. It's a good place to hide because we're 24/7, and someone may not be looking. Okay. And sometimes I feel things aren't being reported. As we know, accidents are not being reported, that happen. You and I see them a lot. They disappear, change stuff, or just like, hey, you take care of yours, I take care of mine, or it's just a tow truck comes in out of nowhere, right? They're racing, there's an accident, tow truck comes, you never see the car, you never see the tow truck again. Those people don't disappear for a while, so they come back again and start racing. TNI has police and we see it. Having said all that I'm saying quickly, is we did, as a result of a lot of the issues that were happening here, did approve to have an officer work, have spent some more time looking at our area. Okay. And that hasn't happened yet. But we have had it approved for about, somebody help me out, 2 years, maybe, 2 years. We've had the officer approved, so that was news to him, because people have changed and moved forward and so forth. So I was updating him to let him know that we have an officer approved, and maybe it's part-time. It was supposed to be Chris. Chris is too busy over at West Shore. Oh, it's the same Chris, with retail theft. But just like East Tampa has their environmental officer, we didn't want to call it environmental because, had nothing to do with trees and mattresses that had, in general, what was going on here. So we're still waiting, and we still want our person, even if it's maybe part-time, okay? But that does spend some time here. And I know the grids speak well, but we just know that we got 2 rings busted, arrested that were within our perimeter, inside our perimeter. So there are things going on, and if you're able to look into that, we do have the money approved. We also have certain programs and projects, and I'll take just 2 minutes because I know you gotta go and we gotta get going. And this may be news to a lot of people here. We did approve 2 projects in the past through the CRA to help the Tampa Police Department do their work. One was we purchased bicycles. Anybody around who purchased bicycles? Anybody know about that? Okay. So we purchased bicycles, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, to help TPD get to know the community, get to know, they felt that, getting, not driving up in a car, but being able to drive around, where they were able to get to know the residents and able to get to know the people. So there were bikes that were purchased and they were used, these bikes are probably old now. The other thing was that there was a situation with adults, I don't know if anybody remembers the adult issues, problems that we had here. We had a lot of unauthorized adult places. For example, I may be wrong, zoning is something like within a certain, in a circle of like 500 feet or something, you cannot have another adult place. And there were a lot of them that have been popping up. They were illegal. They didn't have, some of these adult places, they do have their licenses to operate and so forth and what have you. They're within the law, but there was a lot that weren't. And how do you get to that? So CPD had wanted to, District 1 had wanted to clean that up, but they didn't have the overtime. This was really at the beginning of the CRA. And there was money approved. And it was for the overtime because there was a special situation. And they went in and cleaned it up and it made in the news. Some people were embarrassed. And the city and the CRA got an award. Also, some of you guys may remember this, it had to do with the catalytic converters. I don't know, Cedric, were you around during that time? Okay, we also put in some time available for overtime, try to catch the catalytic converter rates, which we're also operating we're operating in Drew Park. I'm going out of Drew Park, but we made monies available for that too. what I'm trying to say is to the board and to you, okay, we have a history of partnering with TPD when there is an issue within our borders, this has to be within our borders where TPD may need some additional help in overtime, in particular, for a specific thing, we're able to partner with you. We've done it now 3 times.
I love that. That's even in TPD's mission statement. I love collaboration. And I'm sure it's been incredibly frustrating if you have money that you have available that you guys have allocated, for extra help, and that hasn't come along. I recently did talk to, or sent an email to the major about this, but I would say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's 100% true. So, we're gonna go ahead and just keep sounding off on this, and we'll see what we can do with that. Officers want to make money, they want to work these, overtime details, and how it could be something as simple as like whole profile, have something where it's not the same officer every time. Now, that would be ideal. But if it's 3 or 4 officers working the same job, they have to go across the street, they sign in. A lot of times there's a cell phone that you guys would assign to the officers, so you can call them. And there's a log of complaints, and they have to go by and they have to check everything with this and with this. So there's accountability. So.
If we can move in that direction, that would be good. And our role, I guess our role model was East Tampa. And I think through Cedric, maybe Cedric later, you can maybe share with him who the officer is, who I think is still probably out there. I forget his name, very nice.
That's currently, Detective Washington, before.
Oh,
it was,
Andy.
Kurt, yes.
Yep.
And before it was, Curtis Williams.
Okay,
Yeah, Sergeant now, but.
Yeah. okay.
So he came and talked to us, Williams, I believe, came and talked to us, and, that our idea came, spun off of his idea, what he's doing in East Tampa, and now I guess whoever else is doing it.
So we
So,
don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay.
so maybe, you can touch base with them, so. Thank you for listening, thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Anybody have any?
Okay.
Okay, well,
Yeah, by all means, if something weird happens, give us a call right away, do the right thing. Those situations, don't try to be a hero as much as you want to. If you're packing or things like that, if you can avoid a situation, just avoid it. If you can click a couple photos when they're leaving. And again, I'm gonna leave my cards back there. Even if you don't have a question, please send me an email just so I have your contact information. Because there's a lot of times where I need to reach out to you guys, because I have something that could be mutually beneficial. All right, so thanks for your time. Appreciate
thank you
it.
very much.
Absolutely.
So, folks, we're supposed to go into community updates, but what I'd like to do is move into action items. Unless there's do you have any community updates? Because I don't.
No, we
Okay.
can go straight into
So
presentations.
out of our presentations, Cedric, A, B, and C, which one needs a vote?
A and B.
A and B. Okay. So let's move into A and B. We have until 6:30 exactly to get both of them in.
Okay, we can go ahead and fly through it, so.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bryce Beringer. I'm an urban planner with your guys' Tampa CRA. I am happy to introduce, or I guess reintroduce, because Placemaker Design Studio has worked previously with this community. They completed the schematic design package for both the linear park along Tampa Bay Boulevard, as in addition to the future neighborhood park that's going to go in along Huber Avenue. Chris Aniskevich with Placemaker Design has been working on this construction package, which will eventually be used for, which will eventually be bid out for a contractor to come in and actually develop this park. So right now, we're at the 60% threshold, and he's here to provide a little bit of an update. And then after he's done with his presentation, we can go forward with seeking the motion for funding. So without further ado, I can go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Aniskevich. So.
Thank you. Let me say, I really appreciate the opportunity to come back before you and give you a progress update on this project. This is one of my favorite projects I'm working on. My wife and I have really enjoyed this, and we've really enjoyed the public involvement process that we were involved in previously. So thanks again for the opportunity to continue to be involved in this project. So I'm going to start out by just going over the approved schematic design package we had and some of the public involvement priorities that came forward. And that included, this is for Hebert Ave Park, and that included playgrounds, landscape, beautification. The tree preservation was a hot topic. People really like the trees out there and of course appreciate the shade. Seating, drinking fountains, a bottle filler, walking trails, open space, lawn areas, small picnic shelter, and provisions for a future restroom. And these are some of the images in the schematic package. They should all look familiar. We sort of had an aviation theme. There was a 2 to 5 year play area, 5 to 12-year-old play area, swing area, port in place safety surfacing for the equipment. And then we had engineered wood fiber, which is that mulch material that's used in the swing area, which is sort of a city standard. And sorry if I'm talking fast, but I have a lot to go through. So this is, I love this graphic because this shows on the right, the approved schematic plan. And then on the left, you can see where we're at with the construction drawing. So they are very similar. And there's just some minor changes. We've incorporated some stormwater, and I'll get into that, just some dry stormwater basins. And for the most part, as you can see, the plans are very similar, just small tweaks that were made because of civil engineering needs and survey data and some geotechnical information we had. And so the progress, as far as the progress to date, the design services were approved in October 2024. We first expanded the survey work, and then we had a geotechnical investigation report prepared. There was a detailed arborist report and grand tree reports. Mind you, there are 20 grand trees on 2 acres of property. So that is a lot of grand trees, and there is very specific requirements about setbacks from those grand trees to preserve them with the city of Tampa. And then we were further refining the design for the survey work, stormwater requirements, arborist reports, and bi-weekly meetings we're having. We have those with the CRA, Parks and Rec, design staff and their maintenance staff, construction administration, the mobility department for all the work being done in the right of way. And then we've also met with the city ADA coordinator regarding people with disabilities and making sure it's accessible, all the equipment's accessible for people of all abilities. And we had feedback from the Autism Friendly Tampa Advisory Council and Mayor's Alliance for Persons with Disabilities. So there have been some changes to the plans. We have everything that was in the approved schematic package plus more. So we've had a lot of feedback from a lot of different interested parties. And so we've continued to expand upon the plan. And then of course, the Construction Services Division, the CSD review, we have our 60% plan review in, and they're reviewing that right now. And the other thing I want to mention is this parcel, which is on the west end, that is being developed as a multifamily site. So I have met with that developer, and he is extremely excited about this project. He wants to market his product to families. So those are potential users of the park, and plus more eyes on the park, because I know safety has always been a concern. And this is just an enlargement of the plan. The overall program, again, we've got this multifamily project. We will have a connection up here to West Ohio. There are 2 sets of boardwalks, and those are really incorporated to preserve the tree roots. And so we don't have impacts within to grand trees. We have the play areas, a pavilion. We have a water fountain. The pavilion's located here. There's a water fountain here. Potential future restroom. We have a placeholder for it right here, and we are incorporating utility connections so that can easily be added. Loop trails, benches, picnic tables, fencing, landscape enhancements, parking along North Hubert Avenue, which is on-street parking. We have some bollards incorporated as well. Clear sight lines into the site. So we've really designed it so you can see into the site, because again, security was important in lighting. And I'll also touch more on that in another slide. So here's another enlargement. We still have the 2 to 5 area and the 5 to 12 area here. So as far as the 5 to 12-year-old area, again, we have the aviation and sky theme. So we've incorporated sort of a runway theme into the surface and some clouds, and these can also become play elements for kids. They like to interact with the ground plane. That's the forward in place safety surfacing, the billows play structure. I'll have a better view of it there. That also has little plane cutouts and cloud elements, icons incorporated into that. There's a We Go Round musical elements, a cozy dome with balance components. We saw autism communication board, and I'll show you examples of those. And then we have the swing area, which is located here. And this is the engineered wood fiber. We'll have 6 swings, 2 belt, 2 bucket swings, and 2 toddler infant swings. And then also a spinner. And here's a kind of a perspective view. You can see the larger equipment here with the clouds and the kite theme. And then, of course, the runway theme with clouds incorporated into that. We have musical equipment. This is called a We Saw. This is a We Go Round. And then this is a cozy dome. And we've got that functionally linked with some balance elements as well. And then there's all these climbing components between the 2 slides here. And this is another perspective. You can see we also have this color wheel incorporated. As I mentioned, we will have a autism communication board. So that was something that recently came up. So that will be incorporated into this area as well. Another view, you can see the playground. We will be adding 1 additional toddler swing, infant swing there. And then we have the 2 to 5-year-old play area. I really love this equipment. It's got a balloon element incorporated to it, a ticket window. Again, the board in place runway theme, surfacing the clouds. We have these little balance components that are called facet climbers, and there will be a spinner here as well. And some images of what that looks like. There's a little ticket window, the slides. Again, this is for the 2 to 5-year-olds, a small tunnel, spinner, another perspective there. And then this would be made of a perforated metal. And then we have a 2-tiered pavilion structure, which would have seating, and it's very central. And then there's a water fountain located here. It's an image of what that would look like. It's got ADA compliant water fountain access, and then a bottle filler. And then as far as lighting, so, you know, again, this park would not be used at night, but security is important. So we would have lights so people can easily see into the park. Now, it's not going to be lit. It might look super bright, but it's not going to be extremely bright where it bothers the neighbors, but you will be able to see activity in the park. So we know that was important. So we do have lighting throughout the park, and not just on the trails, but in some of the areas. And we did a photometric study to get a good understanding of what the light levels will be. And there's an example of the boardwalk. Different surfacing materials. The cozy dome, this is a We Saw, it's ADA compliant. And this is the We Go Round, which is kind of like a merry-go-round, but you can actually get a wheelchair in there. And then we have the spinner elements. All these elements are incorporated. As I mentioned, we have everything from the schematic package, plus some additional elements, balance components, musical elements. So we've got some chimes and drums. And then here's the language with the furnishings. You know, we've got 6-foot benches with a mid bar, which is kind of a city standard. They want that so people can't easily sleep on these benches. Some of these tables will have 3 chairs, so you can easily bring a wheelchair up. And some of the picnic tables have 4. And then, of course, we have some larger picnic tables as well. And then for the street frontage, we're looking at a nicer 4-foot high picket fence along the road. And then the side fencing would be 6-foot high opaque fencing. And then your standard City of Tampa park sign. So that's an overview. Again, I'm really excited about this. Just want to touch on, again, we have these dry retention areas, kind of one here and one here, but we are designing these so they're very shallow. And our hope is you don't even really notice them, because we really want to have those as open play areas too. So you have some open areas where maybe you can throw the Frisbee or throw the football, but it's an essential element to be incorporated into the design just for stormwater needs. Happy to answer any questions you might have, but that's a quick update.
So what was the front fencing
So that's a metal picket fence. So, it's just metal pickets. And so there would be 4 foot high, so it's an ornamental, or like an ornamental fence.
So it's like that, but it's shorter.
It's just like this, but 4 feet, correct?
Okay.
Yep, and that would just be right along the frontage here. And the other thing I want to mention is that, we do have, 4 spaces here and 1 ADA, parking space here. And, there was a request to have a designated police parking space, so we incorporated that as well.
Members of the Park CAC, last year when we came on board, we heard a lot of passionate conversation about the absence of a community park in Drew Park, and we heard the historical story behind that. And so we have taken a lot of time, and I mentioned to the chair, Ms. Astor Keys, several weeks ago that I think you all would be very pleased. Chris has accepted every iota of feedback, and I haven't been on all the meetings, but every 2 weeks we've been having briefings and check-ins to get to this point. So I just want to say that a lot of time and effort between our staff, Parks and Recreation, and everyone else involved, ADA. So we have tried to leave no stone unturned. And
Busted at my seat.
Yes.
Trying to talk.
so I just wanted to say that. And then, yes, you can go ahead, and then, Mr. Barron was gonna talk about next steps, so. I
Yeah,
just wanted-
somebody's, because we need, yeah,
Yes,
folks, I can't tell you how excited I am. I mean, I am literally just like, wanting, this has been a dream for so long for the CRA. And even through COVID, we marched through workshops, remember? And, this is great. This is absolutely, almost brings tears to my eyes. It's been a long time. This is silly, but it's been a long time, and this is great. I am so happy and so thrilled to see this come together, and I can't wait to have a meeting out there. I wrote down shelter, you have it, they can have birthday parties, the police parking, the lighting, you check that off. The only one thing I would suggest is, think about, I don't know, want to incorporate the theme, in the sign, unless it's an absolutely, something has to do with TPD, with City of Tampa. Because we have our own theme here on signs, like the signs that, on our propeller, yeah.
Yeah.
So just something to consider, may or may not be appropriate, but it is our theme, Drew Park, so it may be something to think about. Restrooms, is there a holdback on doing the restrooms now? Is it money, or is it what?
That's a city decision, I think, part of it, Mike.
Parks and Recreation, and I would need them to confirm. I don't know if they are very keen on the idea of restrooms, just with kind of the surrounding activities that sometimes can take place in Drew Park and some of the concerns that have been brought forth by this committee about that. I can get a more definitive direction.
I mean, I can
We've-
understand that.
Right, we've generally discussed it. I can tell you it probably would bring a significant, cost if we were to include it, with the current cost estimate. And if you're all looking for more of a definitive answer, I would be more than happy to follow up with them.
If you don't
about
mind, I
that.
think
Yeah,
it's
certainly.
unanswered question,
Mhm.
or maybe it's been answered, and we just don't know.
Sure.
I do know that it's not something they typically do in their neighborhood parks. I think there were some other comments he made about it, but I do recall he did say that. The neighborhood parks because of the
That
scale.
might just be the answer.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just thrilled. Thank you. I'm going to let you go so you can get to
Yeah.
your next step.
Absolutely. So with that, it brings us to thinking about what our next steps are. We are currently on track to be at 100% completion for the construction drawings by June. Ideally, if we are to stay on schedule, we would like to start the bidding process for this construction package in July of 2025. With that being considered, we need to take a look at funding in the budget. Right now, this project has an allocation of just over $879,000. So we would be seeking a motion from you all to make an additional funding allocation from neighborhood infrastructure improvements to the neighborhood park on Hubert Avenue in the amount of $1,015,000 to cover the difference.
Get numbers people want.
Yeah,
Don't pop up with
if
something.
you're looking at the budget in front of you, the neighborhood infrastructure line item, I believe has,
4.5.
yeah, 4.5 million. And, essentially, we would just reprogram those dollars to then fall under the, Hubert Avenue Park.
Mhm.
So,
Neighborhood park on Hubert Ave.
Kind of knew this was gonna happen, but
So are we saying the total cost for this park is almost $2 million?
1.89, correct?
In the interest of time, I'll make a motion that we approve the transfer of $1,015,000 from the neighborhood infrastructure improvements line item to the neighborhood park on Hubert Avenue. Michael Marino.
Second that.
second by Nick. Now we go into a discussion. Remember Robert's rules. Any discussion prior to taking a vote?
Seems like it's been covered pretty well. The overview is very well presented, so it's not much to question.
Take a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion has passed.
Very good. Thank you all. We're very excited.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see this. Moving forward. Thank you. We'll make his motion, second, and all in favor. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
thanks. It was nice seeing you again. I'm glad you're still with us. It's a project.
Yeah, appreciate
You were here from the very beginning, so thank you. It's. Okay, so now we're going to move into Drew Park Mobility and Safety and Nick. You're Nick.
Yes.
You're on.
All right.
Sick leaves in 9 minutes.
All right, so in the interest of time, the last time we had gone together, we brought the mobility team out. So transportation director, chief engineer came out, and their project manager came out to present a four-part or four-zone proposal on the mobility, connectivity, and safety project. In those discussions, we had discussed 6 additional focus areas, 4 specific intersections, and 2 corridors that needed to be added and prioritized. And so what we were tasked with mobility was to go back and figure out how those 6 new focus areas can be included in this project. We had taken that back. We wanted to consolidate those 4 zones into one proposal and then maybe even tack on that additional work to make sure that it was included. When we pitched that to contract administration, because we're using a citywide mobility contract, they wanted to keep those 2 segments separate. So 2 work orders, one of them including the entirety of all of our Terra Tectonics recommendations that we had talked about in our last meeting in February, and then a separate work order for the 6 additional focus areas so that we can hone in on that. So where we are now is we have one proposal for the work that we've seen and discussed already, and another proposal for an additional almost $55,000 to tackle those additional focus areas. For a project that is going to cost a total of about $804,000, which is brought down from the $900,000 that we had previously thought. So right now, this project is funded for $592,000. With these 2 work order proposals, the difference for that would be $212,000 for what we think is going to be all inclusive of both those tectonic recommendations and those 6 additional focus areas. And so what we're asking for is a motion to, increase this line item by 212,000 total.
Questions, any comments? We did discuss this quite a bit last time, right? We did put it on hold because we felt that the safety issues of the areas he mentioned, there are 6 particular areas had not been addressed. And they had been addressed at the very beginning, but somewhere along the way got left out. And so we wanted to make sure that they were addressed and put in.
Yes.
And they are. And what I hear is you guys are deciding that, thinking that the best option is to kind of like, let's move this one along and then let's bring this one along.
Yes,
and let's
yes.
get-
But that the tectonic recommendations
Okay,
don't
good.
have to wait
For
for,
this one to get completed.
yes,
And so there was an additional funds that you were asking for before, and tacked onto that is, I believe what you said, $55,000 to get this one going as well.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're basically the same thing we were asking for before, about 2 months ago, plus 55,000, right?
Yes.
So, there we go.
And then just for the ease of, you'll see that the proposal's a lot easier to read this time around because we did ask that they be consolidated. It ended up being a little bit confusing when we had proposed it in 4 zones, especially when it wasn't necessarily needed if you were going to entertain funding the entire project.
So, quick question then.
Yes.
So for proposal number 2, it says 2 key corridors, 4 intersections. So do we have a list of exactly where those are?
Yes, sir. So, it'll be the second BPA proposal on the first page under project description, where you'll see, North Hesperdes, West Crest Avenue. And then as far as the 4 intersections go, it would be North Hubert and West Alva, North Hubert and West Osborne, North Lois and West Alva, and North Lois and West Cayuga. Additionally, there's exhibits that highlight all 4 intersections and both of the corridors.
So what is being delivered for the 50,000? Is it just recommendations or is it actual work?
So comprehensive speed management study to determine cost efficient speed mitigation strategies and a report and cost estimate to this body for additional consideration and work.
But we want to do improvements to those additional corridors and this can be additional funds.
Yes, sir.
Is that additional from what you just said?
It would be in addition to this under the same contract, so it would be an additional work order. I wanted that portion of it to be included in the scope of this work, but engineering they're not able to work that into this contract unless they have a comprehensive study done so that they can work off of that. It's just kind of a phased approach, if you will. So the deliverable from this would be those recommendations, a presentation, and then we would have further conversations on actually addressing them with what we're doing with the first proposal that we had received. So I would consider that schematic design, and then we would go into construction design for those 6 focus areas as well. Timelines on this, if it were approved, the work for those focus areas is going to take 90 days. So that would bring us to a point of them coming back and presenting that to you in August of 2025. And then we would just go from there. I can ask them. I can ask them.
Because 90 is a long time.
Are these 6 the ones that you had a concern about?
These are the ones that we talked about, yeah.
Just go through the list that we had that I wrote down for Hubert, Alva, Hubert, Osborne.
Albert, Lois and Alva, and all of Lois and Hugo are where there's been a lot of unalignment, I'd say. The whole Hesperide corridor, yes, myself and Meg is where there's a lot of A lot of near misses and racing as well, along with Air Cargo. Air Cargo's first victim is Hesperdes, and the other two, Gilbert and Osborne and Hubert and Crest, I think had to do with the amount of the rest that just recently happened. So, but there's still stop signs, and that might be an easier fix, in my opinion. Just more visible signage and so forth, but I think had to do with what was going on in that street. Hopefully it's no longer going on. But yes, those are the areas that we identified.
As far as the budget numbers go, so it looks like there was a line item for the mobility of $930,000. It says in the budget, so is that the bucket of money that we have allocated for this project?
So we only have an approval for 592 for this group. That's from
Before.
from March. So those two numbers are two different things. As far as we're concerned, we can't move forward without a funding recommendation to fill that gap for the full 800.
So like the other one, you were asking us to reallocate some funds from one bucket to another. On this one, you're not. You're asking us just to
Yes, sir.
increase the expenditure.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the memo that Mr. Bennett provided in your packet, it's 200 up to 212.
212.
Yes, $212,000.
And where are we taking that from?
So currently the line item for that is
It's the
Mobility sidewalk.
So essentially, we just need the affirmative recommendation to move forward at that amount. And then we will reach out to the consultant and have those conversations with mobility to get that rolling.
So we're at a point, if anybody wants to make a motion or not, that's the point we're at.
I'll make a motion, Michael Marino, that we recommend approval of additional $212,000 for survey and design services to be allocated out of the existing mobility sidewalk connectivity and safety improvements line item.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Susan? On a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it has so passed. March forward. You have to go.
I'd like
for
to
saying.
make a quick comment about the mobility, and that is that I just wanted to say that I noticed they put all the one-way signs up on Tampa Bay Boulevard.
Oh, they did,
Done.
good,
I just checked it today.
good.
So
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
thank you for whatever they accomplished. I was amazed that it's actually we drove down to FedEx. They're all up. So there's two one-way signs going this way. There's one at the roundabout that shows it's a one-way, and on the other side as well. So,
Good.
very
That was really, that was very dangerous, and I'm glad you brought it forward.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yay, we got two things approved. Okay, Drew Park CRA FY 26 budget. What is going on with that? So, and we do have a forum.
Yes, we still do. Yes, somebody else there. If you look at your budget and we can have more formal discussions at the May meeting, but I wanted to just highlight that, the CRA board has, or essentially the city council has, mandated that we use 30% towards affordable housing initiatives and development in all of the CRAs. And so we know that if we're basing it on our funding allocation from FY 25, so that would be 30% of the 3.5 million that was delayed. And then the only other conversation is very similar to what I asked you all probably this time last year, March, April timeframe, about the budgetary amount. If there's any priorities that you all would like to see, and then what I would do is build out the budget that I would present it to you all in the May meeting for affirmative vote. and then we moved that on to the CRA board in June or July. So, there are some programs, and we've kind of gone through and cleaned up things that, the grants programs will remain consistent, as well as the affordable housing initiatives. And, we do have some line items that as it relates to the ADA improvements, and, that portion of funding will be spent on the new park site that you all saw during the presentation a few moments ago. And, we still have that community policing line item there. So, we can roll that over, carry that forward. And then we also have the historic preservation piece. But I'm open to any suggestions. Or we can just continue to move it forward as it is in its present form. And then we can,
move along.
as I stated last year, we have funds in our neighborhood infrastructure. And if there's a need to reallocate or reprogram those dollars, we can do that at that time.
We have to make a motion to accept it, or we have to have this, does anybody have a comment on anything that we want to change here? If you're okay moving forward with it, then we have a motion to accept it and move forward.
I just have a question. So the 30% that has to be allocated, is that already included in our 2024?
Yes, it is.
It already is.
Yeah, it's just broken down. If you look at Roman numeral 5. And so those programs are the housing rehab and renovation program,
Gotcha.
Down payment assistance, infill housing program, creation and conversion, as well as the strategic acquisitions. I will speak to the infill housing program. We're actually actively working to get an RFP out on the street for infill housing across all the CRAs. And we do, as the Drew Park CRA, have 2 lots that we're looking to, that were slated for housing. So
There are lots of it.
yes, yes. So it's essentially just working to figure out what the design would be, and whether or not it's going to be townhome or single family or what have you. But as we go through that process, we will bring it back to the CAC to have discussions and seek your recommendation or approval.
So we have a motion? Or did you have a comment?
I just have some general questions.
Yes.
I apologize.
No, we
If
got
I'm,
time.
going through, so
This is important.
the budget sheet that you had sent out, right?
Mhm.
So we have 3 columns here. So A is the budget. Is that the initial budget, or does that continually get updated? So I saw some changes in the numbers from even the last one that was presented in February. So
You mean changes as it relates to money being taken out, or
just budgeted numbers. So for example, affordable housing, right? The first one there, housing rehab,
right?
that's now $1,050,000, whereas in the prior one, it was just $1 million.
And I will tell you that we also get interest from the county, and well, not from the county, but there's a level of interest from that is collected. So then we actually put that money into the budgets. So
Okay.
yes, that's normally done once a year, but we're talking about doing it quarterly now, just to go ahead and
Do we get to choose where it's put?
we can. But normally, ideally, it will go into neighborhood infrastructure, and then we would just reprogram it out as needed.
All right, so that leads probably to my next one, because neighborhood infrastructure, I mean, it went up almost $330,000. The mobility went up $30,000. So I mean, it looks like, those, that were, almost $400,000 increase.
Right.
From a budget standpoint. So that was just my question as far as, is that I call it column A, right?
Yes.
If those are just our budget numbers going in, but they do get, I guess, modified.
Yes.
With the amount of interest at. So then column B, which is the middle one. So is this the actual?
So this is the latest report that we received. We just coming out of March, so we haven't received the March report yet. So this is what we have.
No, what does B represent? B represents actual dollars that were spent.
Yes, that's consumption of funds.
Okay, so then for the tax incremental financing, we've spent 100% of those dollars. And then we spent $82,000 of the interest.
Which are
That's the second one from the top, under revenue.
No, interest is what was, yes, what was spent. And, in totality, it comes to $280,000.
It was spent because you reallocated it, or where was it spent? I think it's this question.
Oh, you mean exactly where it was spent. So the breakdown would be for professional services, any, maintenance for lawn care, tree trimming and things of that nature that we do on the various lots that we own. The, park, there's a line item for services, for the design.
But you're talking about the 280,000 at the very bottom,
Correct,
was the actual consumed.
correct.
I mean, the question is, though, I mean, are we spending interest, or is that the amount of interest that was actually received? So my follow-up question is, okay, you have A, B, B being the middle one, and then you have column C.
Mhm.
Is that essentially A minus B? If that's the case, then, $320,000 of funds available doesn't really match, right, for columns A minus B. So anyway,
If I'm understanding this right, the 82,000 total consumption is because you allocated it to, like, you gave 50,000 to affordable housing, and then now you have 32
Yes.
left over, and then the 32 you put it somewhere else.
And we have, so each CRA, we have, a level of interest. So for instance, you mentioned the $400,000. Drew Park may have gotten, an allocation of that from the interest collected over a period of time. Normally, we put those into the budgets annually, but we're having conversations about doing it on a quarterly basis, so it's more real time.
So basically, you just reallocated those 82,000 somewhere underneath here.
Correct.
So we took those 80, if I'm understanding this right, we took those 82,000,
Mhm.
you gave 50,000 to, affordable housing, which is how we went up to 1,050,000. And then the other 32,083.30, you divided it out somewhere else.
Yes, and normally it's, placed in the neighborhood infrastructure line item, representatives.
Neighborhood infrastructure is 6. Correct?
Yes.
because I'm still not following Central.
Okay.
Maybe I'm a little slow on that one.
No, not at all, not at all, not at all.
The funds that are collected, because tax increment financing, the funds that are collected are in the rears.
Mhm.
So 3.23752, that is the funding that was the revenue that was collected as of last year.
Correct.
So that then generates, or should generate over the course of the year, $320,600. If you allocate, or if you draw down that funds quarterly, that's where you would get the 82. So from that standpoint, that's how that breaks down from that standpoint, and that's why that funds available of that 320,600 on interest in column C, that's why that's a stat, that's a stat number. So, I think that's part of the confusion behind it, is that because it's tax increment financing, like the budget for the year should not change from October 1. But what I want to add in terms of how you just distribute this, et cetera. There is a push at the state level to eliminate the CRAs.
I was gonna speak to that. Yeah.
Either sunset them by, I think it's 2045, or when their charters expire. So each CRA has different charter expires. So just my suggestion would be that, as we go through this, that there is, could be an element where time's of the essence. If they enact that law, it'd be July 1st. So by July 1st, that may be the last possible moment you have to decide how to spend future dollars, because I believe the legislature in that you will not be able to spend future dollars, that whatever projects you have on June 30th, those are the only projects you can do going forward.
And it is the legislation, what he's referring to is House Bill 991 and Senate Bill 1242. And it's ultimately making a decision on how CRAs will be able to do business moving forward and sunsetting them at an effective date. We have across the board, we have some CRAs here in the city of Tampa that are scheduled at 2034. Then we have some that are 2043. So we're moving forward with that in mind that, that we're gonna sunset the CRAs, and it also precludes municipalities from creating new CRAs or projects. So it's very important that we actually allocate funds in those line items so that we can, use them moving forward. But the language in some of the legislation is vague and is left up to interpretation. There was a committee meeting yesterday at 1 o'clock. I'm not exactly sure what the outcome was, but the bills are getting legs and they're pushing to. And I know that there's been some friendly amendments on the CRA side or Florida Redevelopment Association side to try to coax some of the changes. And a lot of it comes back to some CRAs being bad actors as it relates to how they're allocating their funds locally. City of Tampa, we've been pretty good stewards of the TIP dollars, and we're communicating that with our CACs and the CRA board. But there are other places that may not be, and they've kind of highlighted those situations. And now the legislation is coming up to try to preclude CRAs from doing business moving forward or after 2045.
Does this track funds that are allocated to certain projects? Because I think I heard you say that the parks ADA improvements of $60,000, that's earmarked already for the Hubert Park.
Correct. There was a motion 2 years ago by the CRA board to allocate a portion of the funds for ADA improvements in parks within the CRAs. So Drew Park's portion was the $60,000, but there was no park, at that particular point in time. So, we will use those dollars towards the some of the equipment that was shown during the presentation.
Do we keep track, or is that an asterisk that we can put off to the side so people know? I mean, we're going to be allocating again another $1 million from Hubert for the neighborhood infrastructure. So is that going to be then?
It will, once we do the reprogramming, because it'll go to the CRA board for their approval, and then the budget analyst who creates the document will then create a separate line item for that specific expenditure.
Okay.
Or in the case of the mobility piece, you'll see that, those dollars are moved into a separate line item or debited from that.
I mean, even for the mobility, right? I mean, we already approved the $592,000, right, for that project, but that's not listed on here.
No, it's in total. Well, no, actually, you had not approved the 592 because it was an addition to. So now what we will do is we'll say that the 812, or is it 812? Yes, 812 would be listed as a separate component or line item.
Okay.
So that's the 500 plus the 212 that you just.
Yes, ma'am.
So as of right now, everything is allocated except the interest that we.
Yes, and then short answer, yes. And if there are any potential projects or programs that you all think you might like to see, then please, let me know so that we can allocate some funds towards that moving forward.
Okay. Sorry, one more question. So the landscape, streetscape on Lois and Grady, so that one, 2.36, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's piece of funding from this bucket of $2.4 million here.
Yes.
And that one, I guess the phase is in construction.
For the lowest and grade? No. I think there was still a shortfall for the funding on that particular project. And we were going to allocate funds for FY26 to kind of make that whole.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. I'm trying to look at where you're looking at the Grady thing, where's Lois and Grady?
It's under
See that now.
infrastructure and capital projects.
30.
It's the
But we haven't started spending that yet.
no, not yet.
When are we?
We're moving in that direction. We were making sure that we got the street safety improvements first. So yes, that'll be the next project.
The next month? That was our first one. I mean, Luna's been at this like from day one. She was
Okay.
right ahead of everybody.
Well, I know that last year, the priority was to move forward with the mobility and connectivity. So that's the one that's gotten focused. That's the one you all have been in front of you, but, we will start.
Is Luna coming on board to finish this?
What's that?
Is Luna coming on board, to see this through?
That I don't know, but, we can definitely reach out.
So I do have one comment, the affordable housing initiative.
Yes, ma'am.
I see, well, put in the additional 50,000 came from the interest, if I understand all that right. I don't see a rental assistance program. Do you have a rental assistance program?
We do not. That is more so our housing and community development arm. For us, we're more focused on creation and conversion and, infill. And,
So are we able to have one? Are
for,
we able to have one in the park area?
I can't say yes because we don't have a mechanism to monitor that and then to get those. Now, is there a possibility we could partner with housing counseling agencies and or our housing community development arm? Yes, because we do that with down payment assistance. I can speak to East Tampa. We've probably done maybe almost earmarked about $1 million. I think we're at 966.
For rental assistance?
Yes, and we're not even done with the fiscal year yet. So
So, I mean. All right, so something to think about. Okay, so does anybody want to make a motion to accept the budget as was presented today?
Michael, we're so moved.
A second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nope. So moved. Whoa, Cedric, you hit a home run today.
thank you.
But we are very careful, so some things we're just not in position to approve, but today we were.
Yes.
So, do we have, I think this is it for today.
It is. I was going to discuss the legislation. Thank you, Mr. Marino, for bringing that up because I want to make sure that you all were aware of that. And any updates that we have coming forward, I will gladly let you know. And then we have CRA board meeting on May 8th, the next CAC meeting scheduled for May 21st here. And then you may have seen at your seats a copy of our annual report that was just distributed to the CRA board last Thursday during the meeting.
Seeing pictures of the farm, but you know.
There it is. I made sure, matter of fact, there it is. Drew Park got some love. So, yes, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention and, we're going to submit that, at the next, Florida Redevelopment Association Conference and maybe get some awards going on.
Somewhere, okay, here I saw the next meetings, July, I would like to keep that open,
Well,
possible meeting, because I think we're going to need it,
okay.
possibly to pass.
We
the,
may have to make an adjustment because we had slated July for a meeting free July and
Yeah.
December because we normally have issues getting quorum.
Right,
I
but
know a lot of folks are traveling for the summer.
But we skipped a March, I believe, wasn't it? We
Mhm.
skipped March, so we're one behind and we're gonna be in a critical point to move projects forward, especially like the Grady and the Lowe's. So if we can come in just to say, you know, if we have to approve something to keep that one going, then that would mean we have all three of our projects going on. So I would like to entertain, bringing in July for a short meeting if possible and if needed. So we don't stop our projects. I am scheduled to be back in front of city council, or excuse me, CRA, to wear the CRA hat in June. So in May, we may want to, you know, I know you guys always do a nice little package of things, you know, to cover and so forth, but I would like everybody's opinion as well, anything that needs to be presented or to be, for the world to know about us, in the June meeting. They like to keep me controlled so that I don't go rogue on them, but I always do. And then, you know, we get the ball rolling. Right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do we have a motion, Mr. Motion, to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, anybody? Susan, all in favor? We are done. Thank you so much. Adjourned. Thank you, everybody. I
Thank you
really
all.
appreciate it. We did great. We did great. I'm so happy to see that part. That part started over that meeting ago. Really, really. Yes. When did,
the airport, take over the park.